how's it going?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good. So I have some questions, I guess, just about like you were bringing up will and like God's will versus our will. So like if God is all good and all knowing, and He knows that we're going to make decisions and eventually rebel against Him and all this, like how does that tie into like it's good in the long run? I guess I'm confused on the idea, like, if He allows us to have free will, like, why would, and I know it's like He wants us to make that free will decision on our own, but, like, if He does allow us to ultimately reject Him, how does that tie into His all goodness, right? Like, that's kind of what I'm confused on.
Well, why would that compromise omnibenevolence to allow beings to have that kind of choice?
Well, yeah, I guess it's the omniscience thing, like,
I'm just saying I don't see how it would be a compromise of His goodness to allow beings to have choices.
right, okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's just, I guess something I have to come to terms with. That's all.
I mean, are you saying like omniscience? Like if He knows that we're going to choose bad things, why does He still create us? I mean, that's a better formulation of it. I
Yeah.
could see that being an argument. I just don't understand why Him being good somehow is a problem for creating beings that can choose things.
Right. Well, I mean, I just feel like I know it's just a contradiction in my mind because we're like limited beings and we can't see the fuller picture. And I'm sure Christ plays into that, like, ultimate redemption of us. And like, I don't know, I'm just struggling with the idea that like I can continually make decisions to rebel against Him and that's still like in line with His will. Like, if I can choose to go against His will, is that still His will? Like, what exactly is God's will and how does that play into my decision making, I guess?
Well, so I mean, God's providence covers all events, but God's will typically we mean like what He requires us to do in terms of the Ten Commandments. So it's again, guys, you gotta mute with the background noise. So it's just really loud. Please mute when you're not talking. So God has a will in the sense of like keep the Ten Commandments, right? And then there's also God's providence by which He permits, or His permissive will, good and evil things to occur. So will is used in different senses, right? But as to the ultimate reason why God permits evil, well, Scripture says because He's able to bring a greater good out of the evils. So we think of the crucifixion, for example, right? In the crucifixion, at the time, the apostles and Satan and everybody thought, Satan thought I'm going to win. The apostles think this is the worst thing ever, but it actually ends up turning out for the good, for the redemption of all of humankind. So, think about Joseph's story in Egypt when he's sold into slavery. He ends up being exalted amongst the Gentiles. It's a type of Christ. The Joseph story is. He's raised to be the head of Egypt, right? Or second or third of Pharaoh. And he's able to save his people through what seemed to be bad. And what does he say to his brothers? What you meant for bad, God was able to turn out to a greater good. So, in my view, that's the best answer that we could have for the question of theodicy. So no worldview can give a perfect answer to the question of theodicy. So even though somebody might say, oh, well, you Christians don't have a perfect answer to the question of theodicy. Okay, but no system actually has, quote, a perfect, exhaustive answer to this question. And that's why a lot of times people try to turn this into like an impossible thing, right? Like literally no worldview can do that. There's no worldview that can give an exhaustive, perfect answer to why all bad events occur, right? But in my view, the best possible answer that we have is an answer where we actually have objective good and evil, and there is a purpose even for bad actions. Because if there's not, then anything goes and nothing matters, and there's really no redemption for suffering. Suffering has ultimately no meaning, right? And so if we're like materialist atheists, we haven't escaped the question of good and evil by raising the issue of theodicy. We've only shifted the question to something that the materialist atheist worldview can't answer either, because they don't have any account for the good at all. There is no the good in the atheist materialist worldview. So to me, that's a even more ridiculous position, right? Than one where we have the expectation that the Christian worldview has to give a perfect account of good and evil. I don't think any position could do that.